The stars stretched endlessly outside the ship Horizon Mercy. It was not a warship, but a humanitarian vessel from Earth, traveling across the border zones to bring help to planets destroyed by the long galactic wars. Captain Ethan Cole, once a combat medic, stood by the large viewing window, his face calm but his eyes filled with quiet pain. He had seen too many broken worlds, too many innocent lives lost to battles they never started. A soft voice came from the bridge. "Captain, we're nearing Dalen Prime," said Lieutenant Mira. "Scanners are showing massive radiation and heat signatures. It looks bad down there." Ethan nodded slowly. "Prepare the rescue team. We search for survivors. Even one life is worth saving." As the ship entered the atmosphere, the sight below made everyone silent. Entire cities were burned to ash. The rivers were dry and the ground cracked like broken glass. Only black smoke rose where once millions had lived. Dalen Prime had been a thriving alien world, a place known for art and song. Now it was quiet as a grave. Ethan led his team down to the surface in an armored shuttle. The air was thick and bitter, filled with the smell of burned metal. They moved through the ruins carefully, guided by their scanners. Every few minutes they found traces of destroyed shelters, melted machines, or empty food storage units. But no survivors. Then suddenly a faint signal appeared on the scanner, a weak life form deep underground. "Captain, it's small. Maybe a child?" Mira said, her voice uncertain. Ethan's expression hardened. "Show me the coordinates." "We dig." The team worked quickly, clearing debris and broken panels until they uncovered a sealed hatch half buried under the rubble. It looked old, damaged, but still functional. When they opened it, cold air rushed out, followed by a small, frightened sound like a whisper or a cry. Inside the dark bunker sat a little alien girl, crouched in the corner, her body trembling. Her skin was pale blue, almost translucent under the dim light, and her large eyes glowed softly with fear. She looked no older than 8 in human years. Her clothes were torn, her hands dirty, and her hair stuck together from dust and tears. The humans froze, not wanting to scare her more. The girl clutched a broken piece of metal tightly, holding it in front of her like a weapon. Her breathing was fast and shallow. She whispered something in her native tongue, but the translator couldn't catch the words. Ethan slowly removed his helmet, showing his face. His voice was calm and gentle. "It's all right. We're not here to hurt you," he said softly. "We're here to help." The girl's glowing eyes darted from his armor to his face. For a moment she stayed completely still. Then in a small, trembling voice she whispered one word. "Leary." It was her name. Ethan's heart softened instantly. "Leary," he repeated gently, pointing to himself. "Ethan." He smiled, hoping she would understand. Slowly he extended his hand. For several long seconds Leary didn't move. Then very carefully, she put down the piece of metal and reached toward him with shaking fingers. When their hands touched, it was like touching something fragile and sacred. Her skin was cool, her pulse weak. Ethan nodded to the medic. "She's coming with us." They carried her carefully back to the shuttle. The moment they lifted off, the bunker collapsed behind them, sealing away what was left of her world. Back aboard Horizon Mercy, the medics ran quick scans. The results shocked everyone. Leary's body was covered in old scars, small, thin lines running across her arms, back, and neck. There were also strange metallic traces under her skin, as if small implants had been forced inside long ago. The computer identified them as biotech remnants from war experiments. The room went silent. Ethan clenched his jaw, unable to hide his anger.
"She's just a child," he muttered.
"What kind of monsters do this?" The doctor sighed. "Looks like she was used for testing during the war, Captain. Maybe both sides experimented on her species." Leary sat quietly on the bed, her big eyes staring at the bright lights. She didn't cry. She didn't even look afraid anymore. She just seemed empty. When the medics tried to scan her again, she flinched away, curling into a ball, whispering in her language. The translator caught only one word: pain. Ethan knelt beside her, keeping his voice soft. "No pain, Leary, you're safe here. No one will hurt you again." She looked up at him, unsure if she could believe that. But when he gently covered her with a blanket, she didn't pull away. That night, as the ship traveled through the quiet stars, Ethan couldn't sleep. He stayed by the medical bay, watching over the little alien girl through the glass window. She was sleeping now, curled up under the blanket, her small chest rising and falling softly. Mira walked in, carrying a cup of coffee. "You've been here for hours, Captain. You should rest." Ethan shook his head. "I can't. Look at her, Mira. She's just a kid. And she's been through something no child should face." Mira's eyes softened. "You've always cared too much, sir." He smiled faintly. "If that's my worst flaw, I'll keep it." Suddenly, the ship's AI spoke through the speakers. "Captain Cole, the subject is experiencing mild stress in her sleep." Ethan rushed to her side. Leary's face was twisted with fear, her small hands clutching the blanket tightly. She murmured words in her native tongue, her voice shaking. Ethan leaned close, listening. The translator beeped softly and translated her dream whisper. "Please, don't hurt me again." For a long moment, Ethan stood frozen. Then he sat down beside her bed. "No one will hurt you again, Leary," he whispered. "Not while I'm here." The girl didn't wake, but her breathing slowly calmed. Outside the window, the stars glimmered like silent witnesses. Ethan stayed there the whole night. He didn't know what kind of mission this would become. But deep inside, he knew one thing. This child was more than just a survivor. She was proof that even in a galaxy filled with war and cruelty, innocence still existed and it needed protection. He swore quietly to himself, "I'll keep her safe, no matter what it takes." As the ship continued its journey, the faint hum of the engines mixed with the quiet rhythm of a sleeping child. In that fragile peace, a bond began to form, one that would soon change both their lives forever. As passed aboard Horizon Mercy, the ship moved quietly through the stars, far from the ruined world of Dalen Prime. Inside the medical bay, Leary slowly began to recover. Her body healed faster than the doctors expected, but her mind was still trapped in fear. She hardly spoke, only whispered small words now and then. Most of the time, she sat near the window, watching the stars drift by as if they reminded her of something she had lost. Captain Ethan Cole visited her every morning. He brought small things from the crew, fruit jelly cups, soft cloth toys, and sometimes paper drawings of Earth animals. At first, she didn't take them. But over time, her curiosity grew. She would look at the pictures, trace the outlines of animals with her small fingers, and ask questions in her broken translator speech. "Bird, fly?" she asked one morning. Ethan smiled gently. "Yes, birds fly in the sky, free and happy." Leary looked up through the glass window at the endless dark space. "I want fly," she said softly. Her words were few, but they carried deep meaning. During one medical checkup, Leary sat nervously as the robotic scanner prepared to examine her. The circular arm began to move, glowing with a soft light. But as soon as it neared her, she panicked. Her small hands grabbed the chair tightly, her eyes wide with terror. She started shaking her head and whispering something rapidly in her language. Ethan was nearby and rushed to her side. "Stop the scan," he ordered. The machine powered down with a soft hum. He knelt beside her and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "It's all right, Leary, no one will hurt you. It's just a scanner, it won't cause pain." But she didn't believe him yet. Her breathing was fast. Her small fingers trembled as she slowly reached for the sleeve of her medical gown. With hesitant movements, she pulled the fabric down and showed her arm. Ethan froze. Beneath the pale blue skin were long, faint scars, some circular, others straight like thin metal lines. They weren't fresh, but they ran deep, stretching across her arms like marks left by cruel machines. Tiny pieces of metal still glimmered beneath the surface, remnants of implants that had never been removed. Leary's voice shook as she spoke through the translator. "Pain. They cut, fix, again." She touched one of the scars on her arm. "Many times, I scream. They no stop." The room fell completely silent. The doctors looked away, their eyes filled with sorrow. Ethan's throat tightened. He could feel anger boiling deep inside, but he kept his voice calm for her sake. He gently took her small hand in his, careful not to touch the scars. "You don't have to be afraid anymore, Leary. No one here will do that. I promise." Her eyes met his, large, uncertain, but searching for truth. After a long pause, she nodded slightly. It was a small movement, but it meant everything. Later that night, Ethan found her sitting alone in the observation room, staring out at the stars. The soft glow from the glass reflected in her eyes. She was humming a low tune, sad but beautiful. Ethan sat a few feet away, not wanting to disturb her. "That's a nice song," he said quietly. She looked over, surprised. "Song of home," she said in slow, broken English. "Mother sang before. Her words trailed off. She couldn't finish. Ethan understood without asking. He leaned back in his chair and looked at the stars beside her. It's a good song. You should keep singing it. It keeps your mother's memory alive. Leary tilted her head slightly, trying to understand his words. After a moment, she smiled faintly. It was the first time Ethan had ever seen her smile. Over the next week, something changed between them. Leary started following Ethan around the ship. She stayed quiet but close, often walking behind him as he spoke with the crew. When he worked in the cargo bay or checked supply crates, she would sit nearby, holding a soft blanket and watching curiously. The crew began to notice. "Looks like you've got a little shadow now, Captain," one engineer joked. Ethan smiled. "Yeah, I think I do." Every night before lights out, Leary would visit the medical bay where Ethan often stayed late reviewing reports. She would stand by the door, waiting silently. When he noticed her, he would close the tablet and sit beside her bed until she fell asleep. Sometimes she would talk about small things, stars, sounds, or colors she liked. One evening, she asked him, "Earth. Safe?" He nodded. "Yes, very safe. Blue oceans, green forest, lots of people who care. Can I go?" she asked, eyes wide with hope. Ethan smiled softly. "One day, maybe. When you're ready." Her small face brightened. "Promise?" "I promise," he said. She reached out and gently touched his hand. "Thank you." Human. That simple moment filled the room with warmth. It wasn't just gratitude, it was trust. For a child who had known nothing but pain, trust was the rarest gift of all. Later that night, as the ship floated quietly through the dark, Leary couldn't sleep. She walked softly through the corridor to the window deck where Ethan sat alone, reading reports. She stood beside him and pointed to the stars. "Many lights," she whispered. "Yes," Ethan said, looking up. "Each one is a world. Some full of peace, some full of pain, but everyone has hope." Leary turned her gaze back to him. "You give hope," she said in her small voice. Ethan smiled, though his heart ached. "You give it too, Leary. You survived when others didn't. That's real strength." She looked down shyly. "But I'm weak." He shook his head. "No, being afraid doesn't make you weak. Surviving does." Leary looked thoughtful, then slowly nodded. The two sat there in silence, surrounded by the quiet hum of the ship. The stars shimmered like tiny candles in the dark void. The next morning, the ship's crew gathered for a final report. The Horizon Mercy was heading toward a galactic medical station where Leary could receive proper care. Ethan approved the transfer but made one thing clear. She's not a test subject. She's a survivor. Treat her with kindness, not curiosity. Everyone agreed. Before leaving the meeting, Ethan visited Leary one last time that day. She was drawing on a tablet, small pictures of stars, the ship, and two figures holding hands. When he looked closer, he realized it was her and him. Ethan smiled. "That's beautiful." Leary looked up, smiling shyly. "Family," she said. The word hit him like a quiet wave of emotion. He gently placed his hand on her shoulder. "Yes, Leary, family." For the first time since she was found, the little alien girl laughed softly, a small, gentle sound that filled the cold ship with warmth. Ethan knew then that his promise meant more than just safety. It meant showing her what kindness felt like, what love and peace truly were, and for the first time in a long while he felt hope. 2. Would you like me to continue with part 3, 1,000 words, where Ethan must fig? The Horizon Mercy glided quietly through the endless stars toward the galactic medical station. The ship's lights reflected off the smooth metal surface as the crew prepared for docking. Everyone felt relief except Captain Ethan Cole. He stood in the observation room watching the stars fade behind them. His mind was heavy with worry about what would happen next to Leary, the little alien girl they had rescued. Leary stood beside him, her small hand resting on the cold glass. She wore a clean white uniform now, her hair brushed neatly, her scars still faintly visible but healing. Her eyes followed the distant lights with wonder. "Many stars," she whispered softly. "All safe?" Ethan smiled gently. "Not all, but some, and maybe one day all of them will be." Leary nodded, though she didn't understand everything. She just liked the calm tone of his voice. He had become her safety, her home. When the ship docked at the station, a group of officials from the Galactic Council awaited them. They looked serious, dressed in silver uniforms with badges that glowed faintly. One of them, a tall alien with gray skin and bright yellow eyes, stepped forward. "Captain Cole," he said, "we have been informed about your rescued subject." Ethan didn't like the way he said subject. "She's a child," Ethan replied firmly. "Her name is Leary." The official nodded slowly but without emotion. "Of course. The council will take responsibility for her. We will study her biology carefully. She could help us understand what her species endured." Ethan's hands tightened into fists. "You mean experiment on her again?" The official frowned. "We prefer the term research. The information may save others in the future." "No," Ethan said flatly. "You're not taking her anywhere without my approval." The alien's expression hardened. "Captain, you are a soldier. You know how the law works. The girl belongs to the Galactic Council now." At that moment, Leary stepped behind Ethan, clutching his arm tightly. She didn't understand all the words, but she could feel the tension. "Ethan, please," she whispered. Ethan looked down at her small face, then back at the council. "She belongs to no one," he said quietly. "Not anymore." That night, Ethan couldn't rest. The station had given them temporary quarters, but he knew that once the council approved their order, they would come for Leary. He sat at his desk, staring at the official report he was supposed to sign. It would release her into their custody. He read the words again and again but couldn't bring himself to do it. His memories of her first smile, her soft laugh, her drawings of stars and family played in his mind. Suddenly, a soft voice came from behind him. "You sad?" He turned. Leary stood in the doorway holding her small blanket. She looked sleepy but worried. Ethan smiled weakly. "I'm okay, Leary, just thinking." She walked over and climbed into the chair beside him. "They take me?" she asked. Her eyes were full of fear. Ethan hesitated, then nodded slowly. "They want to, yes. But I won't let them." She looked at him for a long time. Then she whispered, "Why?" "Because you've suffered enough," he said softly. "Because someone should protect you. That's what humans do. We don't turn away from pain. We try to fix it." Leary reached out and held his hand. "You fix my heart," she said in her small voice. Those words broke something inside him. He smiled, but tears filled his eyes. "Then I'll keep doing that, Leary, no matter what." The next day, the council summoned him again. The same gray-skinned official stood waiting, surrounded by guards. "Captain Cole, the council has made its decision. The alien child will be transferred to our research division in 24 hours. Ethan stared at the document in his hands, then calmly set it on the table. "Denied," the alien blinked. "Excuse me?" "I said no," Ethan repeated. "You'll have to go through the Human Alliance first. And trust me, they won't let this happen." The official's tone grew sharp. "You are overstepping your authority." "Maybe," Ethan said, standing tall. "But authority doesn't matter when a child's life is at stake." Then he turned and walked out before they could reply. Word spread quickly across the station. News reporters picked up the story. Human captain refuses to hand over war survivor. Within hours, it spread across multiple systems. People from different species began to send messages of support. Soldiers, scientists, and even diplomats spoke out. Ethan didn't care about fame. All he cared about was keeping his promise. The Human Alliance embassy soon contacted him directly. "Captain Cole, we've reviewed your report," said the ambassador on the holoscreen. "We're granting the child protective status under the Human Care Act. She will remain in your guardianship until a safe home is found." Ethan sighed with relief. "Thank you, sir." Leary was sitting beside him watching the hologram. When the call ended, she asked, "We stay?" "Yes," he said with a smile. "We stay." Her face lit up like a small sun. "Home," she whispered. Weeks passed. Under the care of human doctors, Leary's implants were safely removed. The scars began to fade into soft silver lines, and her body grew stronger. More importantly, her spirit healed. She laughed more often, learned new words every day, and began to draw colorful pictures of stars, ships, and people. One day, she proudly showed Ethan a drawing of two figures holding hands beneath a sky full of stars. "That's us," she said. He smiled. "You're a good artist, Leary." She nodded seriously. "Because I'm happy." Ethan's heart warmed at those words. Months later, a peace ceremony was held on a neutral planet to celebrate the end of the border wars. Delegates from many worlds attended. Among them stood Leary, now healthier and braver, wearing a simple white dress with the Human Alliance emblem. She stood beside Ethan as the leaders gave speeches. When the Galactic Council's representative asked her to speak, Leary hesitated, then stepped forward. The crowd grew silent as her small voice echoed through the hall. I was hurt before, she began. I was scared. But one human helped me. He did not ask what I was. He only said, "You are safe now." Her voice trembled but grew stronger. Humans fix broken things. They fixed me. Now I want to help others too. The hall erupted in applause. Ethan stood behind her, proud and silent. After the ceremony, reporters asked her what she thought about humans. She smiled and said simply, "They have strong hearts. They see scars and still choose to love." Ethan placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "You did well, Leary." She looked up at him and whispered, "Because you taught me." As the sun set on the peaceful world, Ethan and Leary stood together, watching the light fade into the horizon. She pointed at the sky. "Many stars again," she said. "Yes," Ethan replied. "And now they shine a little brighter." For the first time, she leaned her head against his arm and closed her eyes. "Thank you, human." Ethan looked down at her, smiling softly. "No, Leary, thank you for reminding me what humanity really means." The wind moved gently through the open field, carrying their voices into the distance. In that quiet moment, surrounded by hope and light, the war felt far away, and the universe didn't seem so cold anymore.